Okay, Chief Kirk, Kravology. So last week we talked about fighting stance and why we get in our fighting stance, and I gave you sort of a thinking exercise which I think is helpful in developing really the most powerful skill that you're ever going to develop in Krav Maga, which is how to think. I said last week, Krav Maga is a way of thinking, and it truly is. In fact, it's a way of thinking not just about Krav Maga, but about how you run your business or how you address a problem in life in general. So as we move into this week, I want to talk specifically about the fighting stance and some of the things you might have come up with. One, when we make a fighting stance, we make this box. This box really facilitates or encourages the attacker to attack through the straight line. Well, why is that? Why do we want a shorter, more direct punch when we could have a longer punch? If we think about it, I think the answer can be found in this concept. If people, big and small, short and tall, men and women, across the sort of the training spectrum, have to deal with an attacker that's bigger and stronger, their success in redirecting a punch as opposed to meeting an attack head on, like 360 or even outside defense in some cases, should be, just by the dynamics of power and strength and force, should be more successful in redirecting as opposed to confronting or stopping. I'm not saying they can't, but there's some training involved in connecting to your body and creating structure through the floor all the way to the defense. So the first thing is, if you're going to teach somebody something, it should be something that they can employ pretty quickly. I think that's maybe secondary to the next point, which is we talked about the principles being there's singularity in the principle, meaning the connection is so powerful, it's really one thing. So by inviting a straight punch, what I'm actually doing is I'm setting up an opportunity to, as I make a defense and an inside defense here, I'm creating an opportunity for a very powerful counterattack. And we know that the technique in some respects are the things we do to address the danger, but the real defense is the counterattack. The defense is what shuts the computer down and eventually shuts the machine down, which is the attacker. So preserving a powerful counterattack is vitally important. If I'm dealing with attacks that are coming outside in and I'm doing like a 360 with a counter, this counter will never be as powerful as boom, boom, right? Because I don't get the opportunity to load the counter. And if I try to rotate through that counter, I lose some of my defense, my weight comes out of my defense, my shoulder turns. So I think the idea of a counter has to play a central role in why we set up the way we set up. Here's the last part that I think some people probably got from last week. When we make our counter, we're moving naturally from the countering side to the dead side. And if I make this motion here and I go inside defense and I counter, I've moved over to line up this punch with the center line of the attacker. And now I'm on the dead side, which is different than 360, where I defend really in the middle or in a way with access towards the attacker's live side, and then move to the dead side, particularly if I'm late. So for those reasons, one, defending a punch down the center line is a redirection as opposed to a quote-unquote block. Number two, the counterattack is preserved and most powerful. And number three, this preserves and enhances our capacity to move in and control to a dead side. So when someone asks you, why do you do fighting stance this way, that can be the answer. The alternative, as you understand, is that I do something like this, right? In which case I'm sending the attacks around. If I'm sending the attacks around, I'm doing more of a block. If I'm doing more of a block, I'm more exposed to the live side of the attacker for longer periods of time. And my counter is not nearly as powerful. It might come in a little bit sooner, but it's not nearly as powerful. So this is a way of thinking. And the way of thinking I just walked you through was, what is it we're doing with the danger, and what's the nature of the danger versus other danger? What are we choosing to confront in our fighting stance? Number two, what does our counterattack look like? And how important is that? And number three is, when we're in control and when we're going towards a control side, what's important about that? So as you use these principles in a more singular way, it helps you to begin to dissect the reasons or the probable reasons around why we do what we do. And it gives you a lot more insight into what you're doing and why, which reinforces your training and reinforces your commitment to being in that place. Okay, until next time, walk in peace. Have a great day.